Have you ever wondered if every fallen angel stayed fallen? What if buried beneath the centuries of celestial silence, there was one angel who fell with Lucifer but came back, not banished, not punished, but returned to heaven with something so dark, so dangerous, it was sealed away before humans even learned to walk upright. His name is Namtael, and his secret could shatter everything we think we know about the war in heaven and why it isn't over. But why don't the scriptures mention him? Why would heaven allow a fallen one back in? And most of all, what did he see in the abyss that heaven doesn't want us to know? If you're brave enough to keep watching, I'll take you into a story that was whispered by early mystics, hinted at in forgotten manuscripts, and feared even by the watchers themselves. But first, you're watching Path of Bible, where we peel back the curtain of Scripture to reveal the strange, the hidden, and the powerful. If you're intrigued by angels, cosmic wars, and the truths buried between the lines of the Bible, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you never miss the mysteries we're about to uncover. Who was Namtael? Long before Earth breathed its first sigh, before the stars were flung into the cosmos like diamonds across a black ocean, Namtael stood in the inner courts of heaven. He wasn't a warrior like Michael. He wasn't a messenger like Gabriel. Namtael was something quieter. He was a watcher of the scrolls, a keeper of time, memory, and divine prophecy. His name meant God's recorder, a celestial scribe who chronicled not just events but intentions. He knew what was coming, but wasn't allowed to interfere. He walked the halls of the eternal palace, watched galaxies ignite in silence, and recorded every angel's decision before they even knew they'd make it. But Namtael had one fatal flaw. He felt too much. He wasn't cold like some of the other scribes. He loved the beauty of creation. He marveled at humanity's design, flawed, fragile, yet deeply sacred. And when Lucifer began whispering doubts among the angels, Namtael didn't rise to accuse him. He listened, not because he agreed, but because he wanted to understand. And that was the beginning of everything. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever stood between two sides, unable to choose? Not because you're weak, but because you see a little bit of truth in both. That was Namtael. He didn't fall because he was evil. He fell because he was torn. And when the day of the great rebellion came, when 1/3 of the stars were swept from the sky, Namtael was among them. But not for the reason you might think. The moment heaven split with war, it wasn't fire or chaos that first consumed Namtael. It was silence. The kind of silence that happens after trust is shattered. The kind of silence where time feels like it's holding its breath. Namtael didn't roar with rebellion like Lucifer. He didn't cry out in hatred or vengeance. He simply fell with his scroll still in hand. He watched as Michael's sword cleaved through stars, watched as the light of countless angels dimmed into fury. And though he did not raise his hand against heaven, he also did not stand with it. And so Namtael was counted among the fallen. But unlike the others who reveled in their descent, who clawed and screamed and burned with rage, Namtael observed. He descended not in wrath, but in sorrow. Imagine it, an angel of divine memory cast into a realm where memory is twisted, where nothing is what it once was. This was the abyss, not hell, not the lake of fire, something worse. A place between where the fallen wait, where time dissolves, where regret becomes its own prison. The ancients called it the outer darkness, where the watchers were chained, where silence doesn't mean peace. It means something is watching you back. And Namtael wandered, scrolls clutched to his chest, trying to write, but the ink would run. Because even his divine pen could not hold truth in a place built on distortion. Now here's something strange. Namtael was never claimed by Lucifer. Lucifer, proud and arrogant, called many of the fallen his own. Idzel, Samuel, Astaroth, they pledged allegiance. But Namtael, he walked alone. The other demons didn't trust him, and heaven had shut its gates. He became a myth even among the damned, the scribe without a throne. But deep in that darkness, Namtael discovered something not even Lucifer had seen. A door, not a physical door, but a veil. A place where the laws of heaven and hell overlapped for a brief, terrifying moment. And on the other side was a whisper, Not demonic, not angelic, something older, a voice that didn't tempt, didn't curse. It simply asked, "Why do you still carry the scrolls?" Namtael answered without speaking, "Because if I don't remember the truth, no one will." That's when the whisper changed. It began to show him things. Visions not of the past, not of the war, but of the future. A future even heaven didn't know was coming. A war that would make the first rebellion look like a mere tremor. And right there in the black folds of the abyss, Namtael wrote it down. Every word, every horror, every betrayal, the scroll became something different. No longer prophecy, but a secret weapon, a recording so powerful, even the seraphim would tremble if they ever read it. No fallen angel had ever returned. Not truly. There were rumors, of course, whispers in old scrolls, that some were pardoned or hidden, but nothing like this. Namtael didn't beg. He didn't bribe. He didn't try to sneak back in. He simply walked straight toward the gates of heaven, with his eyes downcast and his scroll wrapped in chains. The angels guarding the gates, seraphim with wings of fire and eyes like suns, recognized him immediately. Namtael had once walked these paths. He had known their names. He had recorded their thoughts. But now they looked at him like a stranger, like a threat. And when they raised their flaming swords to strike him down, he didn't flinch. He knelt. That's when Michael appeared, the archangel of war. Swords still burning from the last remnants of the ancient rebellion. His voice thundered. "Namtael, why have you returned?" Namtael said only this, "Because what I carry does not belong in hell and cannot remain in my hands." Michael, always ready to fight, paused because he saw something in Namtael's face he didn't expect. Fear, not fear of punishment, not fear of death, but fear of what was coming. Heaven has its own laws, its own courts. And so Namtael was brought before the throne. The Book of Enoch speaks of what happens when an angel approaches the throne after rebellion. The very presence of God is like a fire that undoes. Unworthy beings are unmade before they even speak. But Namtael was allowed to speak. And as he unrolled his scroll, even the 24 elders turned their eyes away. He did not read it aloud. He only said, "This was never meant to be known, but I could not let it be lost." What was written in the scroll? Some say it was a prophecy of a second war in heaven. Others say it contained the names of angels who would betray the throne in the last days. Still others claim it revealed what God whispered to Lucifer before casting him down. The secret that made him smile as he fell. Whatever it was, God read it, and the skies grew silent for 7 days. Then a decision was made. Namtael would be allowed to stay, but not as he once was. He could not return to the circle of scribes. He could not sing in the choirs. He would live on the edges of heaven, hidden, watching, recording, still a silent sentinel for a storm that had not yet come. And most importantly, the scroll was sealed, wrapped in 7 layers of divine inscription, hidden in a chamber where no light reaches, guarded by an angel whose name is not known. Only God could unseal it, only in the end. They say heaven is built on truth. But what happens when truth becomes too dangerous to speak? Namtael returned from the abyss with a scroll. A single scroll wrapped in chains of divine light, sealed with silence, bound in a language only heaven could read. No angel has ever described what was in it. No record was ever added to the official texts. Even the scribes of eternity were forbidden to copy it. But the few who caught glimpses went quiet. Some began to fast without command. Others wept without understanding why. Because the scroll held something more than prophecy. It held a secret, a deadly one. One theory passed down in the oldest oral traditions says the scroll contained the future betrayal of heaven by one of its own. Not Lucifer, not the old rebellion, but another, one still to come. Namtael brought that warning back not to accuse, not to condemn, but to record, so that when the signs began, someone in heaven would know where to look. Some even whispered that the scroll contains a specific name, the name of the angel who will betray heaven in the final days. That's why it was sealed, because if even one being read that name too early, it could unleash war before its time. A preemptive strike that would burn half of creation before prophecy is complete. So heaven chose silence, and Namtael, he accepted it. He lives with the burden of knowing. Can you imagine that? Carrying a secret that could destroy the order of heaven, but being told you must never speak it. Every time he sees a brother angel, he wonders, is it you? Every time he watches over earth and sees chaos rise, he asks, is this the moment? Would you carry that weight? Could you hold your tongue while the world spins towards something terrible? Because God said, not yet. That's Namtael's curse. He isn't a warrior. He isn't a judge. He's a witness and a watcher. And the scroll he holds may not be opened until the very last trumpet sounds. But here's the question that should trouble you. Why did God let him see it? Why him, a fallen angel, a returner, a once broken soul? Why choose Namta to carry the secret of heaven's final betrayal? Unless it's because of where he's been. Because he knows darkness. He's touched it. He's walked through fire and silence and came back. And maybe, just maybe, he's the only one who can recognize it when it rises again. There's something deeply unsettling about a story that doesn't end with victory or defeat, but with a secret. Namtael didn't return as a hero. He wasn't welcomed back with music or honored by the thrones. He was never truly part of the choir again. He didn't take up a position near the throne. He wasn't assigned to new creation. He simply waited on the outer edges of glory near the veil that separates eternity from time, still holding the scroll. That same scroll, wrapped in 7 layers of silence, rests in a hidden chamber beyond the reach of any angel, any demon, or any man. Only God knows if it will ever be unsealed. And if it is, it will mean one thing: the end has begun. Maybe Namtael wasn't allowed to fight because his real purpose is still to come. Maybe the final war won't begin with a trumpet, but with a whisper, and Namtael will be the one to deliver it. But here's the part that brings it home. You and I, we live in the middle of this story right now. We live in the time between the silence and the sound, between the warning and the unveiling. We don't know what's in the scroll, but maybe we were never supposed to. Maybe what matters isn't what Namtael saw, but what we choose to see now. Are we the kind of people who listen for the subtle signs? Who notice the shadows beneath the surface of light? Who question not to doubt but to discern? Are we watching the world with open eyes? Or are we sleeping through the slow unraveling? Because the truth is, Namtael might be watching us. Maybe he stands by your bed at night unseen. Maybe he records the tears you never let anyone else see. Maybe he writes your name when you choose mercy instead of pride, forgiveness instead of hate. He's not here to scare you. He's here to witness what even the world ignores. And one day when that scroll is unsealed, your name might be in it. Not as a warning, but as proof that even in a time of silence, someone still stood for the light. So hold on to that. You don't need a sword. You don't need wings. You just need eyes to see and the courage to remember what most people forget. That heaven is still watching. And sometimes so is a fallen angel who came back from the dark with one last secret. This was the story of Namtael. And it's not finished because the scroll is still closed. If you made it this far, you're part of the few who are hungry for truth that goes deeper than the surface. Thank you for watching Path of Bible. Until then, watch the skies and stay.